Um, like I said, I'm gonna try to jump in, jump out. I want to say good evening, welcome to the show. Before I even get started, I tell you my name is Hank Batiste. I'm your host tonight. This is OMITDALOGIC. Before I get started, I always want to say that I'm truly humbled that each and every week you guys show up to watch me show out. You tune in night after night, well, Thursday after Thursday night. All of the things that you could be doing, you choose to be here, and that truly humbles me. That truly motivates me. And tonight, the voices in my head are poised to give you a 5 minute history of modern day Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. For those of you who don't know, Netanyahu is the prime minister of what we would call Israeli Israel's president. Um, he made some Trump-like moves earlier in the year, and I anticipated that it was going to have some political repercussions. I had no idea, and I didn't forecast what happened with Hamas. I didn't see that coming, but I expected there to be some repercussions because some of the things he wants to do. Um, Talk about Israel and Netanyahu for a minute, and then I'm also going to talk about just a little bit about the Asian black man. Um, and I posted something earlier in the week. I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, talking about male menopause and some of the things that men have to deal with as they grow older. So I'm just going to mention one or two of the things that goes on. And um, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I'll probably start off with this first, is after more than 2 weeks, the Trump publicans, the Trump disciples um, of the Republican Party has infiltrated the entire party and elected Mike Johnson from the state of Louisiana, go figure, my home state, as the Speaker of the House. So we're going to talk a little bit about who Mike Johnson is, and I'll give you a little brief history on it. It took more than 2 weeks. I took more than 2 weeks. I took 2 weeks off. Um, my head is just spinning, folks. I lost my phone. There was so much in my phone. I've been spending the last 2 days trying to change passwords and cancel bank cards and get more cards and do all of this. And then, like I say, I have some impending medical things going on. I've got to go back to the dentist. It's time for my weekly colonoscopy. I mean, my I haven't had a colonoscopy in about 5 years, so it's time for me to have another colonoscopy. And I say these things because it has to do with men's health or our health in general. So I've got to prep for that. That's going on in the morning. And I'm going to beat you up, Mary. I really am. I haven't beat up a woman or a girl since second grade. And she's pushing the brothers to make me feel like Ralph Cramden, One of these days, right in the kisser. So, I took off 2 weeks, and the world seemed to have gotten crazier and more bananas. I mean, truly bananas. It's like the whole Republican Party stepped on a banana peel and bumped their heads. So, shit that's happening. And then, of course, yesterday, last night, the idiot up in Lewiston, Maine, um, killed all of these people. First, they were saying around 25. Now they're saying at least 18. So I don't think they even know um, where he's actually assaulted and killed people. The main two places was a bar and restaurant and a bowling alley, and they said it had something to do with the girlfriend. But man, my daughter was having a conversation about this. She said she don't understand why guys just can't break up and go on about their business. And I said, it's not just the guys, because when you look at some of these shows, Form a Man or um, Fatal Attraction, and a lot of these TV1 programs, you see that the women are just as crazy, if not crazier. So people just, with the proliferation of guns, it just seems that people are on this. Why talk about it when I could just assassinate someone and be famous? Um, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. I posted a story on Marvin Gaye a little while back, and I came across some new to me. So I wouldn't call it new evidence, but a story that told more of the story than what I knew. All I knew, I thought it was something like thin line between love and hate. He'd been out for a minute. He came in too late. The woman threw some grits on him. Are you hungry? Did you eat? Yeah. You know, and come to find out, it was a whole lot more to the story. The woman doused him with grits and then went in the room and committed suicide. So I don't know if you knew that, but I just found out. I was 2 days ago age when I found out. So the world is crazier. This is a mythologic. I am Hank Batiste. Let me try to break this down and make it make sense. Let's get started. This week, WEAK, WEAK and the Trump Publicans as the Trump Publicans turn. There used to be a parody on what's her name, on Carol Burnett, and she did a parody of As the World Turns, and she called it As the Stomach Turns. And I feel like we need to reinitiate that, where the Trump disciples taking hold of the Republican Party. And it's probably a good thing because those people that still have any remnants of sense and decency are going to find someone else to vote for other than um, look like they're headed towards another Trump nomination. Um, we know why he's running. He's running A, because he wants power, and B, because he's trying to avoid going to jail. I don't see them sending or setting the precedent to send a former president to jail, regardless to what he has done. Only because this is still a white man's country, and white men make excuses for each other. Yeah, I said it. I meant what I said. I said what I meant. So it is what it is. So this week, WEAK and as the Trump Republicans turn. First up, who is Mike Johnson? Mike Johnson is an ultra mega conservative, anti-abortion, anti-homosexual, self-proclaimed Christian who likes to exaggerate and use inflammatory language to make his point or argue his point of view. Sound like anyone in particular? Yeah, probably the one guy that he actually looks up to, the despicable, delusional one himself. Mike Johnson is a MAGA supporter. He was praised by none other than the child pornographer himself, Matt Gaetz, as a MAGA frontman who demonstrates where the Republican Party really is headed. So, why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you this because we can't nominate anyone for um, Speaker of the House. But what we can do, and I'm talking to my people in Louisiana first. Louisiana is a red state. But I think it's time for us to get some folks together and start voting these people out. If we could get a Democratic governor, we'd be able to get a Democratic um, years. He's up for reelection, so we should be able to get a representative to replace Mike Johnson. He was nominated and elected in 2016 and is the former chairman of what's called the Republican Study Committee. It's this ultra conservative think tank, if you will. He and his wife also host a podcast that still denies that Biden actually won the presidency and blasts all of the prosecution that Trump has brought on himself. And last but not least, as the 56th Speaker of the House, he's second in line behind only the Vice President for the Oval Office. So if you know anything about government, if you know anything about civics, if you know anything about how this country was organized, it's the president. If something happens to the president, then the vice president steps up. If something happens to the vice president, then the Speaker of the House assumes the office of president. It's called the rule of succession, which means the only thing worse than Trump is a young, egotistical lawyer who is besides himself and feeling himself that close to the seat of power. So stand by. That's all I can say. We got one more year. He's been in since 2016, which means he's probably going on his third 2 years, probably going on his fourth term. So if this is 16 and this is, we're looking at 22, no, that'll be his third term, I guess. So anyway, we need to get him out of there. We really need to get him out there. If he assumed office in 17, he went into office with Trump, which means he's this staunch Trump supporter. His misguided religious zeal prompted him to say in his acceptance speech last night that he believes God ordained him and others to be brought to Congress, quote, for this specific moment in time, unquote. He believes that God ordained him. Every time someone takes the word of God and perverts it into meaning what he wants it to mean, he or she wants it to mean, we're headed for hell with gasoline draws. So this guy is going to do some things. Like I said, just to recap, he's ultra conservative. He's anti-abortion. He's anti-homosexual. He's a self-proclaimed Christian who likes to exaggerate. I remember when he was when they were holding the hearings on abortion. He's such a staunch anti-abortionist that he asked the woman, the doctor, would she perform abortion on a baby that was about to be born? What kind of foolishness is that? That's not an abortion. That's plain and simple murder. You understand what I'm saying? So to say something that's that inflammatory, that far-fetched, just to try to A, gain points in his party, and B, not even make a point. You're not making a point. You're looking for glory. So before I go on, let me just say this. I need to remind you, if you've forgotten, that it was the so-called Christians who embraced slavery in all of its atrocities. It was the so-called Christians that twisted and misquoted God's word to justify eradicating entire civilizations and parties and ethnic groups like the Indians, the Incas, the Mayans, and even us as well. They took God's word and they lied to themselves so much that they actually believed it to be true. So these are the people that we have to look out for. So I submit to you that the only person that Mike Johnson truly praises is Donald Trump himself and power. Moving on. I'm going to try to tell you quickly a quick 5-minute history of Israel, the Palestinians, and what's going on. Because the problem that I have with us being so pro Israel that it's gotten so far gone that even Biden is talking about um, pulling up, Netanyahu needing to pull up. So I'm going to give you a quick 5-minute history. First of all, I don't know how many of you know who Itzhak Rabin was. I don't know how many of you know what the relationship between Rabin and Netanyahu was. And I'm not going to name the group because I don't want to give them power. But there was a right wing group, extremist group, that Benjamin Netanyahu was the head of, a leader of. Itzhak Rabin, to answer my first question, Itzhak Rabin was the prime minister of Israel. In 1995, this man had won a Nobel Peace Prize for coming up with solutions to finally create some peace in the Gaza Strip in the West Bank, in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And one of Netanyahu's disciples shot Itzhak Rabin in the back 3 times and killed him. And if you see, I'm going to post it on my page. But if you see him, he wore this assassination like a badge of honor. And it's ridiculous. And as soon as Itzhak Rabin was killed, who do you think assumed the role of prime minister or president, if you will, of Israel? Benjamin Netanyahu. When they asked Mrs. Rabin, who does she think was responsible for her husband's death or assassination? She pointed to Netanyahu. Now, after the Greek Holocaust of the Second World War, NATO came together, these countries came together, and they decided that they would give this part of Israel to the Israelis, the Israel people, the Gaza Strip, Tel Aviv, that going to the river. I mean, to the ocean. So in somewhere, I think it was 1945 or 1946, in order to give this land to the Israelis, they displaced or moved over 750,000 Palestinians out of what was then their homeland. Instead of coming up with some kind of peace to try to teach them or some kind of pact to have them peacefully coexist. They said that God said that this was their land. Now, I don't know what Bible you read. There's about 14 different versions of the Bible. But I don't ever remember reading anywhere in the Bible where God said he was going to raise some people only to destroy some other people, with the exception of Pharaoh and the atrocities that he carried out. So I think we only got half of the story. Anytime anybody's word, especially God's word, is left open to man's interpretation, like I said earlier, it's all ultra Christians who wants to use God's word themselves, to better themselves, to their advantage and to disadvantage of anyone who opposes them. So since then, we've had these treaties and counter treaties and agreements and so forth and so on. And Prime Minister Rabin had come the closest to creating peace where the Palestinians and the Israelis could peacefully coexist. And he was assassinated in 1995. And Benjamin Netanyahu came to power. Earlier this year, what he did was he got rid of the internal checks and balances to their parliament. Their parliament is like our Congress. And he did what I call a Trump, where he basically made himself supreme being. So he doesn't have to answer to parliament anymore. So he can do whatever he wants to do. So after what happened on October the 7th, and we were told that it was Hamas's terrorists that did this, he's using it as a reason. And now what he uses is this language to eradicate all of the Palestinians out of Gaza. So last night they sent in troops. Remember a week ago, or earlier this week, they bombed the hospital. And they said that it was Hamas. We'll never know. But one thing is for sure, he's made it perfectly clear that he plans to get rid of the Palestinians. I don't know what God gave him that kind of power or that kind of prophecy. So it is what it is. I don't support the Palestinians. I don't support the Jews or the Israelis. I support them both, not one over the other. But what I don't support is the atrocities that kill any innocent people, be they Hamas, be they Israelis or the Israeli Defense Force. Their IFD is IDF is like their army. So that's all I got to say about that. The story is not as cut and dry as what we're getting in the news. Sadly, those people that are in power, a lot of them have Jewish leniency, a lineage. ethnicity behind them. And even some of them have said, let's hold those responsible who truly are responsible. And let's not be like those people that we profess to despise and kill innocent people simply because they are a different ethnic group. Moving on. I told you that I have a colonoscopy in the morning. I don't necessarily have a problem, so prayers are always welcome. But as we get to a certain age, there are things that we need to be concerned about. Now, colon is one. When I look at the number of people that are dying of cancer, I've lost a few friends to testicular cancer, to prostate cancer. I've lost a few friends to, and a sister to breast cancer. I've lost people that I know to lung cancer, and so forth and so on. So as we get older, and I'm talking to my brothers especially, because women talk about, the high rate of mortality that has fell upon the gender, the female gender. But I would argue that a lot of that is attributed to the fact that for the last 30, 40 years, women have been doing the same jobs that men have been doing. And that stress is starting to act on them the same way that it's been acting on us. Sadly, there are less programs set up for men. So I'm talking to my brothers. Get your colon checked, get your prostate checked, go to the doctor, ask for a yearly chest x-ray so that we can check out your lungs. If you have a cough, don't dismiss it. If you have a pain in your back or in your stomach, don't dismiss it. Follow up. When I look at these young brothers, and I'm a scientist, so I always look at cause and effect. When I look at young people that are dying by the alarming rates that they are dying, I start to look at the cause. Some of these girls are going overboard with these surgeries to build a better booty or bigger breasts or a slim waistline and so forth and so on. They're taking all kind of pills to try to lose weight and they're looking for the easy way out. Even those prescription drugs that are being prescribed to us have some horrific side effects. So I impress upon all of you, but especially the brothers, when you go to the doctor, because here's the thing about women, women will speak up. Women will speak up. Men won't. Men will take it on the chin and they say, okay. So, brothers, whatever it is that you're feeling, it's easier to go to the doctor and they tell you, oh, that's just, you know, you tweak your back to find out 2 years later that you had a mass on your spine. I was working at Bethesda, a 28-year-old girl, woman. Shortly after giving birth, she was having back pain. We took some x-rays of her lower back and we found masses. Less than 18 months later, she was gone. When I was at training at Charity Hospital, New Orleans, my anatomy and physiology teacher was 40 years old. He had two little girls. He played music, as most of us do. And when you play music back in the day, there was all these juke joints with all the smoking and what have you, all the secondhand smoke. He didn't smoke. But when he went in for his annual physical, they found a spot on his lung. Wound up being cancer. Needless to say, those little girls grew up without a dad. Women are more apt to go to the doctor when they have a problem than men, present company included, without delusions of being a superhero. So all I could say is if something is going on, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Take care of yourself, people. I'm going to have this colonoscopy. I'm going to have my teeth cleaned and redone because never had a cavity till I went into the military. And these doctors want to experiment. They want to. So what they told me is, I don't have a cavity now, but there's a war brewing in Iran. They had just taken the embassy in Iran, and we were the only ones who were desert trained. So they said, what we're going to do is do some where you might have a problem moving forward. And those old fillings that they gave me back in 1979, I'm having to have those replaced. And then I'm doing some other things too, because my calling card has always been my smile. Other thing I'll say to you is the teeth is within inches of the brain. That eustachian tube. Remember when your kids had problems and they put in those little tubes? There's something called a eustachian tube. And it has a direct access to the brain. So if there's an abscess that's left unattended, that poison can move to the brain. So don't take your dental health lightly. If you have a cough, don't take it lightly. If you have a back pain, don't take it lightly. There's some, I found out that I have some chronic pain as a result of some injuries sustained when I was in the Marine Corps. So I'm always going to have to deal with that. Sciatica, I call it sciatica because when it acts up, it sends me to the moon. That piriformis, I call it tears of form because when it's inflamed, it will bring you down. Rather than to take a whole lot of medicine, I opted to do physical therapy. So it's time for more physical therapy. I'm telling you all of these things because I want you to know that I practice what I preach. When I talk about portion control and you see these plates that I cook, that's not an everyday occurrence. Sometimes from 6 or 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night to 10 o'clock in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I'll drink a glass of orange juice or some iced tea, and I won't eat a meal. So my body is doing an automatic fast all night. So when you see these horrendous plates that I cook, A, it's not a common occurrence. B, sometimes it's for show. See, sometimes the brother is greedy, but I can't do it, nor can you do it every day. So take care of ourselves because I've lost too many classmates. I've lost too many friends that I've met since then. And some of you, I see you here now, and we talk about it. Some of you have what we call pre-existing conditions. Some of you have autoimmune conditions, lupus and MS, and all of these things that could go on. Don't take your health for granted because you can have all the money in the world. Reverend Hardy said at a wake one time, he said it doesn't matter what you have in life because all of the wakes he's officiated, and I quote, I have yet to see any hearse followed by a U-Haul truck. So you can't take it with you. So if you're going to spend it taking care of yourself. Do that for me. And I'll see you next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place. Before you go, do me a favor. Go to my YouTube, OMITDALOGIC, OMITDALOGIC, OMITDALOGIC. Sign up. Share this with somebody. 3 things I want you to take from tonight. What's really happening in Israel and who Netanyahu is. I bring it up because we got a Netanyahu wannabe right here. Number 2, I want you to understand who Mike Johnson is. Because in the state of Louisiana, it's time for us to pull this behind out of there. And number 3, I want to see you take care of yourself. And as always important, I wish you love. I wish you peace. 2 fingers to the sky. Like your man, Cat Grease. I promise you, quick and easy tonight. I'm out of here. So good loving somebody, and that somebody loves you back. And that's a fact. Wow. Colon cancer, huh? Praying for the brother, man. Praying for the brother. Thank you, babe. If I don't feel better, I just have to make you come take care of Black man. That's all. Yeah. I'll give you a get out of jail free card so you can. uh, be good, baby. Talk to you later. Good night.